Based on what you're seeing and hearing, how would you describe the prospects for recovery in the real estate market?
The real estate market prospects are uncertain. Unfortunately, there's no other word to describe it. I can be very clear that they will get better. I mean, the market will recover, but the question is exactly when. And I'm not sure I've seen such an uncertainty, where it's very patchy around different parts of the world. There are a few bright spots. So one could single out China. One could certainly single out Australia, and even Canada to some extent, all of whom had a different experience of the recession. But there is no certainty going forward, so we can't say in 12 or 18 months' time we know that every market is going to be improved, and that's because the world economy remains very fragile, with lots of uncertainty attached to that, and the real estate market inevitably follows the overall economy.
Jeremy, you mentioned that China, Australia, and Canada have seemed to weather this recession better than most other countries. Can you tell us why?
You know, China, along with India, of course, is growing very fast and has a very rapidly urbanizing population, and that's very good for real estate because new buildings are required. Australia is one of the main beneficiaries of the growth in China, and shares a characteristic with Canada, that the banks never got into the difficulties there that they did in Europe and in the United States. So the financial systems are more robust, and that's provided better stability.
Jeremy, during the boom a few years ago, we saw the same piece of property being used in multiple ways by multiple investors. Are you seeing any of this activity returning, and if so, can you describe how?
We experienced a time in the lead up to the recession when there was a lot of capital chasing real estate, and it found its way into real estate in many different ways, so not just equity investing but through debt markets and so on. And in effect, it meant that every piece of real estate was being used many times over by different participants. When one looks forward and sees the merits of investing in real estate, and in particular for organizations like sovereign wealth funds, insurance companies, pension schemes, where the long-term nature of real estate performs a real function, one has to ask whether there is actually enough real estate in the world to go round. And I don't think that analysis has really been done very effectively.
We often hear the phrase, the new normal. Have you seen any firms who have foreseen what they perceive to be the new normal and have adjusted their businesses around that?
Well, the new normal is something that I don't think I recognize. I mean, I think I recognize an old abnormal, and the old abnormal was really real estate being the puppet of finance. It was seen more as an investment opportunity than as a building for occupation. So I think the smart firms, in thinking about what the new normal might be, are those who concentrate on buildings as places for occupation, and searching for how the requirements of office occupiers or shoppers, residents, what they want to see differently in the future.
Jeremy, you recently wrote that sheep got us into this recession and it will take a good shepherd to get us out of it. Can you tell us what you meant by that?
When one talks of the real estate industry and the participants are behaving like sheep, it is very much they just see what their neighbors are doing and think that must be a good idea and carrying on. I don't think one can ever change that behavior, so we do need to identify those who are a bit more far-sighted in thinking about what is the appropriate way forward for real estate, not least in the way real estate is financed, so that if we're going to all be followers rather than leaders, we can find the right leader to follow.